Welcome to the Women at the Wheel podcast. I'm your host, Maddie Weiner, editor of Aftermarket News, and today I'm joined by Anna Gluck, Executive Vice President of Human Resources at Transtar Industries. Anna, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into your background. And so just to start off, I know you joined Transtar in 2020, which is definitely a changing time, but tell us about your career trajectory.
Sure. I've not always worked in automotive aftermarket.
Okay.
I've been in human resources for about 22 years, but I have spent about 10 years specifically in the automotive space. I actually started out with a very large, multi-billion-dollar automotive insurance company locally here, right out of undergrad. So I probably should have known that the rest of my career I would gravitate towards automotive, so here I am.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. And then, yeah, how did you find Transtar? Can you kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, I actually was recruited to Transtar. I heard this fantastic story about this growing organization who's really looking at transforming the business. And so once I started having conversations with our CEO and at the time CFO, he's now our CFO and COO, I was hooked. I was hooked on the story and what they were trying to do, and I wanted to come on board and really help them propel the people engagement function.
Very cool. Very cool. I know Transtar is growing significantly. You guys have entered the AC market and, have had a couple acquisitions this year. So definitely congratulations on all of that.
Thank you.
A lot going on there,
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, we're very excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Anna, I wanted to ask you about your mentors, whether in the automotive aftermarket or not. Are there a couple people that, really influenced how you work today or have been, empowering to you throughout your career?
Yes, absolutely. There's a few that definitely stick out.
Okay.
Particularly in the automotive space, I was very fortunate earlier in my career when I was at a manager level to be paired up with a C-suite female at the Timken company.
Oh, yeah.
And she, coincidentally, also her function was communication. She spent a great deal of time helping me with my confidence, helping me with my clear communication style and working with some of the executive level men that I supported for the various business units, as well as their teams, teams as well. And it was eye-opening in helping me with my verbal and written communication, as well as my confidence.
Very cool.
And then my current mentor actually is my CEO.
Awesome.
Yes, my CEO. And I have learned a lot from him in the past several years, but what I think he brings to the table for me, one, he's a male mentoring me from a male's perspective in the automotive aftermarket and how he views women, female leaders, et cetera, and where he'd like to see that needle moved. We also happen to both be minorities and we're both Gen X. So I think there's definitely some insight that has come from our generation and what he and I view as a way to engage an entire workforce from boomers to Gen X to Zennials to Millennials to Gen Z. How are all of these different generations coming together in a workplace and what can I do as a leader to engage them and create a sense of belonging. So he's been very inspiring to me as well, and I've learned a lot from him in the past few years as well. So those are probably the two mentors that have really stuck out for me in my career.
Yeah, great people, that's for sure.
Yes.
Awesome. So as Executive Vice President of Human Resources, can you describe your role and sort of what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, sure. So as a member of the executive leadership team, I spend all my time on strategy and working on the business.
Okay.
And then in my role as Executive Vice President of Human Resources, I have responsibility for HR, legal, and organizational communications. So I spend a lot of my time just on people. I mean, that's really how my day is split, the strategy and the people. If I were to sum it up and make it sound simple, that's where I spend my time.
Very cool. I know no role is simple, but that's really interesting. And you mentioned you're on Transtar's leadership team. I saw you are the only woman on that team.
Yes, I am.
So Can you describe how you navigate that?
Yeah.
I know that sometimes being the only woman on an all-male team can be, I don't know, a little daunting for some, but yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. I'm asked this question a lot.
Okay.
I really am. And I think my philosophy has really been when you are the only woman on an executive leadership team to try to minimize that obvious point on the executive leadership team. I'm keenly aware, and I understand that means what I need from my CEO or the executive team for support to be successful is a bit different than the men that I work with. But I do really try to focus my time and effort on the value I bring to the team, our strategy, what I'm doing to work with my teams to execute on that strategy. And while all these different pieces and parts of who I am as a woman, a mother, a minority, I'm also the youngest on our executive leadership team. Okay. They all do make up who I am and who I am as a leader, obviously. But at the end of the day, I think it's important that I just demonstrate that I'm there to be at the table and bring my value to the team, and my work will speak for itself, and I think it has.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, really being true to who you are, it seems like. Yeah.
Yes, I do. I
That's
spend
great.
a lot of time being true to who I am.
I love that. That's awesome. So in your Women at the Wheel profile, and I believe you were a 2022 honoree, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I was.
Congratulations again. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
I was reading that profile, and you kind of said this here. You're a champion for women being themselves and having the confidence to speak up and share their opinion. I'm sure you have countless instances that you've done that at Transtar, but I'm curious if we can maybe go back in your career and is there like one point that you realize like, no, I need to do this for me, for other women as an example? Is there maybe a story or two that you can point to where that really shined for you?
Yes, actually there's one specific point. This was probably about 12 to 15 years ago.
Okay.
I was working in a male-dominated environment similar to where I am today as well, and I attended a conference where I learned about imposter syndrome. And at the time, I had never heard of imposter syndrome. And this light bulb went off, and I realized I was quite timid and I didn't speak up. And even though I was certain of my point or a direction that I wanted to go, I didn't communicate it. And I worked with all these men, and I noticed they had no problem speaking their opinion, pushing back, stating what they thought would be the best path forward for a particular problem to be solved.
Right.
And there was no consequence. But for some reason, I found that I was my own barrier. And from that moment on, I realized to be a leader in an organization, it's actually not to be people-pleasing, which can sometimes sound shocking off the cuff when you hear a leader say, I'm not here to please people.
Yeah.
But I'm not. My role is to have a commitment to the strategy and then have the leadership skills to be able to influence, inspire, and engage others to align to that strategy.
Right.
Well, you can't do that if you're silent. So
true.
I really shifted my mindset. I spoke up, spoke out, whether it's an opinion that's the same or differs from others, it's my opinion, or it's my experience and background that I'm bringing and sharing with others in order to solve a particular business issue. And so that's what I started doing. And I am 100% confident that shift in my own mindset and giving myself permission has greatly contributed to my own success and being able to grow in my career, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's such an inspiring story. And I think we've heard, you said, you kind of heard that term imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome. You said 12 to 15 years ago?
Yes.
But I think it's more, kind of a mainstream now, I guess.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's definitely better that people are recognizing it. And like you, kind of, really capitalizing on your strengths and your voice. So that's so important. And I'm sure you probably share those with your team as well.
Yes, even though in the automotive aftermarket space itself, there are mostly men, or
Yeah.
in my particular organization, the executive leadership team, they is comprised of men except for me. My team is mostly women, and
Okay. Oh, cool.
I do spend a lot of time coaching and developing them. That's what I enjoy doing, but
Yeah.
a lot of our topics really center around confidence and giving themselves permission to speak and speaking up, addressing conflict. Conflict isn't bad, it's okay, because I would like to continue to see women grow. And while it's a company's role to make sure that we have opportunities and an environment that is conducive to supporting women in their growth, we also need women to want to grow.
Yeah.
And they have to do so by having confidence and speaking up. That's the only way. That's the only way.
Yeah, giving themselves permission to do that and having a leader like you that says, yeah, go for it, do it,
Yes.
is, I'm sure, so helpful. And yeah, that's so inspiring. I love that. That's
Great.
great. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. So you're in charge of talent acquisition and employee technology. I know we've talked about that a little bit. But what do you feel, sort of looking in on the automotive aftermarket, what do you feel companies in our space need to do today to retain talent? I mean, you've talked about sort of what you do with your team, but what do you see are some issues out there where, maybe people aren't being attracted to the aftermarket or being nurtured as they should be?
Yes, I think first and foremost, I think the aftermarket space, although quite traditional, needs to be open to what a typical candidate or an employee is looking for today.
Okay.
And what we have found is that number one is flexible work.
Okay,
And
yeah.
we have done that in multiple different avenues. It's not just reserved for the corporate professional,
Yeah.
but we also have solutions and opportunities for people who work in our branches and our distribution centers too. We
Okay.
have also instituted different versions of flexible work in those spaces too, and it's allowed us to be able to attract mothers who left the workplace during COVID. It's enabled us to attract people who are looking for part-time work instead of full-time. It's opened up possibilities for us, and I think it's been a great lever for us because it gives us the opportunity to attract talent.
Right.
And it also allows the employees who are coming to us, the candidates who are coming to us, to see that they have a place that doesn't have to look as traditional as maybe it's looked like in the past.
Yeah, no, that's true. And can you give me an example of how that works? Like, are employees at distribution centers allowed to bring, laptops home and work from home like that? Or how, give me a picture, if you will.
Yeah, so
I'm
so their
curious.
work is much more hands-on.
Right.
We're a pick, pack, ship operation in our branches and our distribution centers. But what traditionally, we had full-time shifts. First shift, in
Okay.
some locations, second shift.
Yeah.
Now we allow for shift swaps if needed for our team members, should they need to have some flexibility to attend to personal matters. If they perhaps need to come in a couple hours late due to a doctor or dentist appointment, they can stay a couple hours to make it up so that they can still get their full shift time. Again, it's a different version of flexibility, but it's not something that we offered before. And then we also offer part-time work. So we may have someone who says, today I can come and do 10 to 2, and then next week maybe I can work a shift that's 12 to 4.
Yeah.
And we're open to that in our locations because it still gives us coverage that we need and allows a person to still have flexibility in their lives too.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it's helping you all because, obviously you need those shifts filled and you need, that, I guess, workforce capacity, but also helping them to kind of cater to what they need in their lives, it seems like, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then still have a place that they can call a place, a career for them,
Right.
that they can stay. And we've also found we found that people who we give to, meaning we give them flexibility, they also give back. Like they will work hard, they will be aligned to our strategy and focused and dedicated. It's a great relationship with our employees versus the traditional shifts that are put in place. These are shifts, you work it or you don't.
Right, right.
It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Those options are so nice. Yeah. Very interesting. So kind of going along the technology side of your role, what do you feel are some, HR technologies out there that really lead to the ease of doing business for employers? I feel like, there's so much, so many different companies out there that offer different solutions, but is there anything that you guys have found, you in particular through your career have found helpful?
Yes, there's probably two in particular that I could share with you. Again, sticking to the topic of engaging employees,
Yeah.
we have a platform called AwardCo. And AwardCo is a platform in which you can recognize other team members.
Oh, cool.
It operates a little bit like social media in terms of being able to display kudos for someone and other people to be able to follow, but it's also an award system where we can give people points for any type of celebration that we would like to award points for, and they're able to use those points on Amazon, actually. So when you have an environment like ours where we have 75 different locations, sometimes it can be hard to consistently and uniformly recognize people for birthdays or anniversaries or a great job on a project well done. And AwardCo allows us to do that. So it's been a great tool that we've been able to use that we just implemented that last year. And then behind the scenes, I guess, in HR, one of our new favorite tools is AI. We use ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
but
great.
we do, there's a lot of, there's a lot of administrative work within human resources, and being able to leverage that technology to, write a job description or refresh a policy has been amazing.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's really eased our burden of that initial drafting of that type of information. So we use that a lot internally in HR.
That's interesting. Yeah, sort of like an AI assistant. They're writing it, or the system's writing it rather, but you guys are checking it over and really making sure that it's tailored, I would imagine.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Because it can't be perfect.
Right.
You have to still create nuances for your culture or your tone. It has to sound like you.
Right.
But it's been a great tool that's afforded a lot of efficiencies for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, those are two really great examples. I mean, you've talked about, employee recognition and AI and, really speaking up and all that. So, you guys are really on the cutting edge and very cool. How do you get new ideas? I'm so curious, Is it from different conferences, or what do you do to keep up with like the continuing education aspect of your role?
People.
Okay,
People and conferences.
Yeah,
do, it's both, but I have an amazing HR team.
Yeah.
My direct reports are referred to as the HR leadership team, the HRLT.
Okay.
They are constantly in communication with their teams with different ideas, bold ideas, changes.
Yeah.
Really, sometimes, even for me, I'm quite progressive. I find sometimes their ideas to be really, really progressive, and I have to understand, okay, how will our organization receive this? Will that be too shocking? Will that be different? But I am surrounded by a lot of very smart people. So they bring a lot of ideas to the table that sometimes are their own or come from conferences or webinars, et cetera. And then the same for me. And then, I work very closely with our CEO, Neil Sethi, and he's a lifelong learner. And he's many times approaching me with an idea regarding an article he read or something he learned about, and he gives me a small snippet, and then myself and my team, we go run it down and research it and see if it's something we can do.
Oh, cool.
I think that's actually how AI came to be used regularly in HR. It was first introduced by Neil a while ago. And then we adopted it. So the ideas come from everywhere. They really do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So Anna, last question here. In what ways do you feel women are an asset to a company in the automotive aftermarket?
Well, honestly, most women are the decision makers in a household. They decide what vehicles are purchased, where they're purchased from, where they're repaired, which parts go into it. And roughly, women make up 50% of the population. So
Right.
really, why wouldn't a woman be an asset to the automotive aftermarket space? I think also naturally, women tend to be more empathetic. And, that stems beyond human resources. Just women coming into our organization tend to be more empathetic.
Right.
And that has given us an edge on how we get this temperature read on how our team members are doing, especially during COVID. How the team members are doing, how they're feeling. Women naturally have that ability to be more in tune to what's going on, which is great feedback for us as an employer to figure out where we need to course correct, where we need to pay attention. Gas prices are going up. Can we give away gas cards to our team members? We pay attention to those things, and I think women are the sole drivers of being able to bring that competency into our organization. And of course, their opinions and thoughts on vehicles and where vehicles are repaired and what parts go into it. So there's absolutely a place for them in aftermarket.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And kind of going off of that, what advice would you give to women looking to move the needle at their companies, like you have at Transtar and your other roles?
Definitely confidence in speaking up. I know this has been a little bit of a theme of our conversation this morning, but if women would just give themselves permission to speak and have a voice, they would absolutely move the needles at their organization. They would grow and develop in their organizations. I know for myself personally, I would love to see more women around the executive leadership table before I retire. Would be wonderful if I could see 50% of the makeup be women, but they have to want it also. And I just think that having that confidence and giving themselves permission to be a voice could do wonders for women growing, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it happen.
Me too, Anna. Me too. Yes, I love that, and I love that vision for what the aftermarket could be in the future.
Yes.
So a lot more open, a lot more diversity. It seems like. So.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Anna, thanks so much for coming on the Women at the Wheel podcast. I so appreciate your time today, and thanks for sharing your insights with us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.